Italian Football Podcast.
Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima, Tavallaey. And on today's show, we are delighted to be joined by one of, if not the number one man when it comes to the mercato, Alfredo Pedulla. Alfredo, thank you so much for joining us.
Buongiorno a voi, grazie, troppo gentile.
Okay, well, let's work our way down the clubs. Nima, do you want to start with Napoli, and then we'll move on from there?
Sure. Ciao, Alfredo. Again, thank you for joining us. I wanted to ask you about Victor Osimhen. Start with us, Victor Osimhen and Frank Anguissa. What's the situation with them?
Guarda, su Osimhen è una cosa che può cambiare ogni giorno. Credo che sia una delle cose più complicate nella storia del mercato degli ultimi 10 anni.
Look, with Osimhen, it's something that can change every day. I think he's been one of the most complicated players in the history of the market in the last 10 years. It was already complicated last summer, you'll remember. Then he decided to choose Galatasaray. Now, if he wanted to take the money, excuse me if I tell you something so clearly without beating around the bush, he would already be the new striker of Al Hilal. Al Hilal offered him 35 million a season plus bonuses to get to 40. Then there was the Club World Cup, and he, like Theo Hernandez, decided not to go. I don't rule out that they might try again, but I know that he has already closed the door to Saudi Arabia, because he doesn't like it. He doesn't want to go. He's still young, he doesn't want to leave at 27. Knowing him, he would get tired after a week, 2 months, and then he would return to Italy. You know, with money you can convince anyone, but at the moment, it's a no. I'll also tell you that Galatasaray is hoping, but it's not easy, that the Premier League clubs, as of today, have not made any concrete moves so far, and Juventus cannot be excluded, but it is an operation that costs money. If Giuntoli had stayed, I would have told you today that Osimhen would have been the new Juventus striker with an 80% certainty after the Club World Cup. Now without Giuntoli, maybe it won't be 80%, but until he makes a decision, Juventus will have some hope to maybe bring this operation home later. So it's a difficult situation. Every day he changes his mind. The night before he thinks one thing, and the day after he thinks another. So he has to be followed step by step.
Lui non deciderà, la Juventus avrà delle speranze per magari portare a casa questa operazione più avanti. Quindi è una situazione difficile, ogni giorno lui cambia idea, lui la sera prima pensa una cosa, il giorno dopo ne pensa un'altra, quindi va seguito step by step.
Ok. E su Anguissa e non Anguissa?
Anguissa c'ha grandi richieste, Turchia, Arabia, al momento ha detto...
There are big requests from Turkey and Saudi Arabia, which he has said no to. He feels ready to try a different experience away from Napoli. He is very tied to Napoli. He has won 2 championships in 3 years. Since last spring, he has thought of doing something different, but there must be 2 conditions. The payment of the transfer fee that will satisfy Napoli, and that is not a simple thing, plus a fair salary in a league that is competitive. At the moment today, I can't tell you 100% if he will remain at Napoli, also in 2025-26, because we're still in mid-June, and things could change soon. And in fact, Napoli is thinking about some midfielders because they know that there's still a possibility that he leaves.
Infatti il Napoli sta pensando a dei centrocampisti perché sa che comunque una possibilità che Anguissa vada via c'è.
Okay, well let's move on to the players who could come in. And Napoli, the most active team in Serie A. So let's start off with the midfield, like you just said. So Musa, Hojlund, who are Napoli looking at in midfield?
Allora sì, da oggi sono 48-72 ore.
So yes, from today there are 48 to 72 important hours for the 2 operations you mentioned, because Sanchez of Sevilla, even if he rightly says, I am tied to the club, I am thinking about the under-21s, but he has to say it like this. Sevilla is going through a difficult phase at a corporate level. They wouldn't want to part with him if it isn't a significant sum, like 20 million. Napoli offered 12, 13, plus 2 in bonuses, and it came to 15 million. He is the first choice to be Di Lorenzo's deputy, because, among other things, he is a young boy who can still grow. Today and tomorrow there will be developments. Napoli can even get to something more than 15. Sevilla must lower their demands and go below 20. For Musa, it is very simple. Napoli was annoyed by the news leak. They were annoyed that it was said that the deal is completed, because it's not. Milan is asking for more than 25 million. Napoli really likes Musa. Conte earmarked him since last spring because he is convinced that Musa can have a different championship with him, compared to the last one Milan. The last one with Milan, between Fonseca and Conceição, there were too many problems. Musa played, he didn't play, he suffered, but Conte considers him a strong player, and would also be prepared for the possible sale of Anguissa if Musa arrived. But Napoli won't raise their offer. They won't get involved in any auction, they don't do auctions. They don't intend to increase their offer. Napoli said, I offered you this money, 20 to 21 million, plus 3 to 4 in bonuses. If you like it, okay. If you don't like it, there are many midfielders around the world. If you want to do auctions, we don't participate in auctions. It will also depend a lot on Milan. From today to Wednesday, there could be some developments.
Napoli ha detto, io ti ho offerto questi soldi, 20-21 milioni più 3-4 di bonus. Se ti va bene, ok. Se non ti va bene, ci sono tanti centrocampisti in giro per il mondo. Se tu vuoi fare delle aste, io alle aste non partecipo. Quindi dipenderà molto anche dal Milan. Da oggi a mercoledì ci possono essere degli sviluppi.
And one other question about Napoli, the wingers, the esterni. We've had Ndoi, Nusa, Chiesa. What's the situation?
Sì, esterni alti, esterni bassi.
Yes, wingers and wing-backs. Wing-backs like Sanchez, Di Lorenzo's deputy, then attacking wingers like Ndoi. He has an important place on Conte's shortlist. I think Ndoi is at the top of Conte's list. Then there are other players abroad. There is certainly Federico Chiesa. They will sign 2 wingers, because they have to buy 2 wingers. Neres can also play on the right, so Neres can play with Politano on the right, and you need 2 attacking, tall wingers on the left to do the job, to play a system with people who have the ability to beat their man, to dribble, like Ndoi, like Chiesa. Napoli have to be very attentive because Ngoij and maybe Raspadori and Simeone are destined to leave. For Raspadori, they will need to receive a significant offer. Napoli also wants to sign a great striker. I spoke exclusively about Darwin Núñez a while ago, and there were confirmations on this name. Napoli likes him a lot. Luca was also proposed. So Napoli will be, I can say, the masters of the mercato. Napoli have a lot of money at their disposal. I would just like to deny one thing. Yesterday there were rumours about John Duran, who you know well went to Saudi Arabia from Aston Villa. He is a great striker, young, strong, but he also earns a lot, 10 million a year. Napoli is not in the running for John Duran and has other ideas. There may be Fenerbahce or other teams, but there is no Napoli offer.
Che voi sapete bene è andato in Arabia dall'Aston Villa, è un grande attaccante, giovane, forte, ma guadagna anche tanto, 10 milioni. Il Napoli non è in pista per John Duran, ha altre idee, ci può essere il Fenerbahce o altre squadre, ma non c'è il Napoli.
Well, speaking of Turkey, and let's move on to Inter, Hakan Calhanoglu, what's the situation there?
Hakan Calhanoglu e ogni estate c'è sempre qualcosa. Prima il Bayern, poi l'Arabia, poi lui al Bayern si era avvicinato.
For Calhanoglu, there is always something every summer. First Bayern, then Saudi Arabia, then he got close to Bayern, then he was convinced to stay, then Saudi Arabia. Now his agent is talking to Galatasaray, but the 2 clubs are not talking. It is important that the 2 clubs talk. Do not dispute the fact that being a Turk, Hakan Calhanoglu may also want to return to his homeland to such a prestigious club. But you know very well that Galatasaray very often pays big salaries but does not pay big transfer fees. In fact, Osimhen, if they want to keep Osimhen, they have to put up the money for the clause, 75 million. They are not specialised in paying transfer fees, and Inter will not gift Calhanoglu away. With Calhanoglu, you can't tell, say, I'll give you 10 million for the salary and 5 million for the transfer fee. It can't be done. So let's see how his agent will handle it. After he talks to Galatasaray, if it involves Inter, remember that it will be a difficult market for Inter and Juventus during the Club World Cup, because some directors are on one side and some remain in Italy. Some others have gone to America, then they have to come back, then they have to do. Not only will the next season be strange, but it will also be a strange market for those who are playing the Club World Cup. In fact, whoever managed to start some operations early, in my opinion, got ahead with their work.
Non soltanto sarà un campionato strano il prossimo, ma sarà un mercato strano anche per chi fa il mondiale per club. Infatti, chi è riuscito ad anticipare qualche operazione, secondo me, si è portato avanti con il lavoro.
Fratesi, will there be a swap with Raspadori? Will he go to Roma? What's happening?
Fratesi prima scelta del Napoli, ma con il nuovo
Fratesi is Napoli's first choice. But with the new Inter management, without Simone Inzaghi, I believe that Fratesi will not push as hard as before to leave. Before he played little, came in, scored, but rarely started. Roma had tried seriously, he was a Roma fan, or at least tied to Roma. Inter had asked for 50 million in January, 50 because they didn't want to sell him. It was a price set to push away the interest at clubs. But now that there is Kivu, and there is no longer Inzaghi, I think that before going, he will think about it. But then Inter are not able to lose Calhanoglu, Fratesi, and another two. Inter will probably do a little restyling, and they can't sell everyone, because then it would be very complicated for a new coach who has arrived to a completely new team.
L'Inter deve fare un restyling, ma non può cederli tutti, perché poi diventerebbe molto complicato per un allenatore che è arrivato avere una squadra completamente nuova.
Let's move on to the players who could come in for Inter. So the three from Parma: Boni, Bernabei, Giovanni Leone.
Allora, Boni primo della lista. L'Inter vuole fare un erede di Thuram.
Boni is the first on the list. Inter want him to be an heir to Thuram, an alter ego of Thuram. Boni is liked a lot. They've been talking for Boni for at least a month. Inter have gone to see him several times, and the reports have been excellent. Inter are in the lead for Boni. They must find the right timing to move for him. Then, a few days ago, there was a dinner in Milan, which we also documented with images. Between Inter and Parma, everyone likes Leone, class of 2006. Inter asked for him, and he cost 25 million. Parma would not like to sell him this year because, according to Parma, he is a central defender who, if he does another year in Parma, now he is at 25 million, but in a year he'll be worth 40. Playing consistently, he is liked by Inter, he is liked by Milan, he is liked by Juve, but Inter tried seriously, and they asked for Bernabei, because he is a classic midfielder that, since they could lose Asllani, they have signed Sucic, but there is Calhanoglu we are not so sure about. So they will need an alternative. Bernabei is a great talent who can play mezzala, he can play trequartista, he can play as an outside attacker. With Parma, between Inter and Parma, they will work together on transfer deals. The first deal is Boni, and maybe there may be players of Inter going the other way because Inter have many players that Parma like.
Con il Parma, tra Inter e Parma, ci saranno dei lavori di mercato che potranno portare fino in fondo. Ripeto, la prima cosa è Boni e magari ci possono essere anche dei calciatori dell'Inter, perché l'Inter ne ha tanti che possono piacere al Parma.
Okay, and just one other one. The Inter are looking for a striker. Rasmus Hojlund is one. What's happening with the striker for Inter?
Ma Hojlund piace a tanti d'Italia. Il problema è che io non ho mai
Hojlund is liked by a lot of clubs in Italy. The problem is that I have never understood the market of Manchester United. I have never understood who... Hojlund is liked by a lot of clubs in Italy. The problem is that I have never understood the market of Manchester United. I have never understood who is in charge of their transfers. I have never understood when they wake up in the morning, whether they go to sleep at night, and sleep 3 to 4 hours at least, because what has happened to Manchester United? You know better than me, but these are truly inexplicable situations. Man United made a big investment in Hojlund. I remember having done that story very well from when it was born a couple years ago. Hojlund knows that Inter are the first team who are interested, not Napoli. He was on the list before Napoli, but he was not in the first place on Napoli's list. I think it's one thing to say, Boni 20 million, we negotiate, and then I will give you 15. It's another story completely to think that Manchester United will loan you Hojlund. Then, if it happens, since I spent last summer answering Man United fans who asked me about McTominay, why would you settle for 30 million for McTominay? It's clear that when, with the problems that Manchester United have, they would have kept him without any kind of problem. It's clear that the day after tomorrow, United could decide to loan Hojlund, and it would be madness. I mean, Inter like him. Today they are going stronger on Bonni, they lost Correa, Inter lost Arnautovic, Taremi has not performed, they have to sign at least 2. So Bonni is advancing. Hojlund is light. It depends on United, but I will try to get into United's head in the next few days because it is very difficult today. It is Monday, the first day of the week. I prefer to stay calm and maybe in 2 to 3 days we will see.
Quindi Bonni con il Parma sta andando avanti. Hojlund piace, dipende dallo United, ma io nella testa dello United cercherò di entrarci nei prossimi giorni perché è molto difficile oggi, è lunedì, primo giorno della settimana, preferisco stare tranquillo e magari tra 2
Okay, let's talk about Juve. Dusan Vlahovic, what's happening?
Problema serio, piace molto ad Allegri. Problema serio di cartellino.
Vlahovic is a serious problem. Allegri likes him a lot, but he is a serious problem. There is a serious problem with his contract. His contract expires on June 30th, 2026, so you have just over a year, and you can't ask for 50 million for someone who has a contract expiring in 2026. You ask for 30, 35, and that would be a lot. Unless some English club wants him. You know very well that in England they don't have the same problems that they do in Italy. In Italy they think, well, that contract is expiring. I'll give you 15, I'll give you 18, I'll give you 20. In England, if the contract expires and they like the player, they also give you 50. It's a different way. They have a different philosophy compared to Italy. He is now with the team. He's on tour. Tudor is an admirer of his. He already spoke to him, but he's also asked him to spread the contract over more years. Remember that Vlahovic earns 12 million net. 12 million net is a lot. With 12 million net, he must score at least 25 goals. Vlahovic didn't want to spread the salary. In the background, I always watch Milan because Allegri, who signed him at Juventus for a lot of money, asked for him. Under certain conditions, he could be a solution for Allegri's Milan.
Vlahovic alla Juve, a determinate condizioni può essere un'opportunità anche per il Milan di Allegri.
Mm-hmm. And who's going to replace Vlahovic at Juve? Because we've seen Viktor Gyokeres as the dream signing. Is Gyokeres possible, or who else could it be?
No, è possibile se l'Arsenal si ritira.
It is possible if Arsenal withdraw from the race. If Arsenal withdrew, yes. I've known for a month that Arsenal's first choice is Gyokeres. Then there is the president of Sporting who says, I didn't make a promise to sell Gyokeres for less money. The agent who says, no, you made the promise that you don't want to ask for 100 million euros clause, but you told us that you'd be satisfied with 70. The president of Sporting said no. Juventus can cling to Gyokeres if the others withdraw. There is no possibility of Juventus competing with Arsenal if Arsenal decide to close the deal. I know that Andrea Berta, Arsenal's new sporting director, has Gyokeres in his head more than Sesko. Gyokeres is liked more than Sesko, even if many have said Sesko is the first choice. I didn't have this news. I know that Arsenal want to sign Gyokeres, then maybe in the end they will sign Sesko. But their objective, their priority is Gyokeres. From the Italian teams, Napoli have never been after Gyokeres, Juve have probed, but it is not a simple operation. I think that Gyokeres and Osimhen are two names that Juve have always had in mind, but they are not simple operations. However, Juve will have to sign a real striker.
Ma non è un'operazione semplice. Se lo prendessi, io penso che Gyokeres, Osimhen sono due nomi che la Juve ha sempre avuto in testa, ma non sono operazioni semplici. Però un attaccante vero la Juve lo dovrà prendere.
Okay, and just before we finish, let's just do Milan, Nima, before we finish.
Cool. Milan.
Yeah. So, if you can sum up Milan, what players are they looking at? How close are they to signing certain players? You know, in the striker, midfield, replacement for
allora, il Milan deve fare una rivoluzione. Deve aspettare per Teo.
Milan must do a revolution. They must wait to Teo. Teo is like Osimhen. One day yes, one day no. The night before he has an idea, then he changes his mind. But he does not want to go, so we waste time. We wait for July or August. Teo is like that. He could have gone to Como, 43 million euros for the contract in January, but he said no. He said no to Al Hilal. He wanted to go to Atletico. Milan will look for a fullback. Zinchenko from Arsenal is a hot name to follow, but there are others. They will look for two midfielders. If Musa leaves, two midfielders, apart from Modric, who will sign after the Club World Cup. Number one on the list is Tare Ishjari from Club Brugge. His Albanian entourage and the Albanian Tare have already spoken. The boy is available and would be a big investment for the future. Club Brugge is asking for 35 to 38 million. It depends on selling Musa, and then they can make an investment with his money. They like Xhaka from Bayer Leverkusen, and in the background there is also Garcia. Milan will sign at least one central defender, a left-back, two midfielders, and then there is a question mark. They have to really sign a striker, even though they only signed Jimenez in January. When you sign Jimenez in January, you think, this is the striker of the future. They spent 35 million, and now they want to sign another striker.
Devi prendere un attaccante pur avendo fatto Jimenez soltanto a gennaio. Quando tu hai preso Jimenez a gennaio pensi, ma questo è l'attaccante del futuro, no? Ho speso 35 milioni e invece loro vogliono fare un altro attaccante.
Modric is done deal.
Modric deve solo firmare. Io poi non so
Modric will surely sign. I'm not in Modric's head. All that's missing is the signature. He said, respect for Real Madrid and the Club World Cup. I don't want to sign before. I don't want to do the medicals before. He has a great relationship with Real and wants to respect them until the end. After the World Cup, he should sign and do the medicals. But until the signatures, we always had to be a little bit cautious. But he said to Milan, I'm coming. There are no problems. They even reached an agreement. Everything is fine.
Okay. Nima, shall we leave it at that?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We'll thank you for coming, Alfredo. I know we've said we're going to try to schedule another one of these later in the summer. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on. It's a great pleasure for us. And everybody check out Alfredo Pedulla on Twitter, his homepage, alfredopedulla.com. So thank you so much for coming on.
Anche il mio canale YouTube, eh?
Sì, no, we'll tag you. We'll tag your YouTube channel.
YouTube, sto scherzando. Grazie a voi. Grazie a voi, è stato un piacere. Un saluto a tutti gli amici e ci risentiamo presto.
Grazie,
Alfredo.
Grazie,
ciao,
Alfredo.
ciao, buona giornata.
Ciao.